Here I'm reading our story, the story of how we left our city and ended up in the US. We decided to make it a separate video.
So we are a family of four. My husband Roman, he is doing the video shooting today. It's me, and we also have two kids. Aya, she's 3 years old, and Mia, she's 11 months old. They are walking right there with grandma. I think you may see her through the window. Yeah. We are from Kharkiv, Ukraine. Our beautiful city with a population of 3 million people is located just 40 kilometers from the border with Russia, and it was among the first ones to be bombed. February 24th will forever be in our memories. On that day, we woke up at 5 in the morning because of the loud sounds. They were very similar to fireworks, but deep, more vivid and terrifying, and they were explosions. On that morning, Aya was about to go to her kindergarten, which she adored, and we then wanted to have a cup of coffee and a croissant at our favorite bakery, just as we did every day after dropping Aya off at her kindergarten. I was 35 weeks pregnant at the time, and having that delicious croissant every morning just always made my day. Then we would drive back home and start working. We were freelancers. I made translations, copywriting and editing, and my husband Roman was a sculptor, artist and illustrator for Ukrainian clients. But that day changed our lives and turned them upside down. We were in a hurry to pack a backpack with documents, some clothes and other important stuff. Then Roman drove to a number of petrol stations with long lines of cars waiting to be filled. It's God's mercy that we managed to buy some petrol before it was completely sold out all around Kharkiv. The same situation was in supermarkets, long lines of people at the cashier's desks and products disappearing from the shelves. I have never seen so much panic and so much fear in the eyes of people around in my life. The sounds of explosions, bombs and rockets never stopped. We didn't know what to do further. The borders were closed and only women and children were let out. Men had to stay in the country. And we wouldn't have managed to drive to the border as the distance from the east to the west was around 1,000 kilometers. We fell to our knees and started praying that God could show us the way and lead us from that moment on. And when the prayer was over, my husband's phone started ringing. It was our friend, the pastor of the church in a village 20 kilometers from Kharkiv. He was calling to tell us that we come to his house and stay with him in a place that seemed safer. We took our things, put them in our car and drove. It was 3 hours before the curfew restrictions. The Beltway was closed as there was heavy fighting there, so we had to make our way from the north to the south across the whole city. There were few to no cars when we were approaching the exit of the city in the south. We were driving in the direction where heavy shelling was when we saw Russian tanks that broke through into the city. They were driving against traffic just towards us. I remembered as in Kiev, a Russian tank just ran over a car that parked on the sidewalk to make way for the tank. People in it were smashed in seconds. Roman took our car to the side and the tank beeping hardly passed by. We exhaled, but when approaching the final bridge at the exit from the city, we saw loads of black smoke. There was no traffic around, no people, just rare sounds of explosions and that awful smell of rubber and plastic being burned. We decided to take another way, go round and leave the city using other roads. That part of the city wasn't familiar to us, so I frantically took my phone trying to find what road to take, but it wasn't that easy at that moment. My only thought was that those moments might be the last ones in our lives, that Aya might not grow up to go to school, that Mia, and we didn't even know the gender then, might not even be born to see her family and the world around, that I might not hug my husband one last time. And now coming back to those minutes in my memory makes me burst into tears, but then I didn't have time for this. I couldn't allow myself to be weak. I was my husband's second pilot, whose responsibility was to tell him where to go. I don't remember how long it took us to drive away from the burning tank. It felt like hours. Aya was sleeping in her car seat and Mia was kicking hard, and we were totally silent as we drove onto the field with a single earthy track covered with melting snow and mud that separated us from an asphalted road leading to the village and house of our friend pastor. Driving there was like a rally. We thanked the Lord that we had Ford Focus and that in peaceful times Roman sometimes polished up his driving skills in such conditions. This saved us from falling either to the right where there was a river flowing or to the left where there was a sheer drop during the longest and the most silent 2 kilometers in our lives. When we finally made it, we drove safely to our destination. The house was very warm, with dry wood slightly cracking in the fire. It felt like the whole other universe, so calm and so peaceful. Pastor and his wife welcomed us heartily and made us eat something. We had a long and cheerful conversation, prayed and went to bed. And that night the most terrifying thing started happening. Russian fighter aircraft started flying over the city, dropping bombs on residential buildings. Shelling never stopped, and all night long we constantly woke up to the sounds of massive explosions, praying in gratefulness that Lord put us in His hand and led us out of the city. In the morning, the first thing I did was take my phone and scroll local Telegram channels to read the news and see the awful photos of destroyed buildings, burnt vehicles, and weeping people. It's been a year already since the start of the war in my country, but this habit still stays with me. My city was being crushed, extinguished, and killed out, and no one could do anything with it. The streets we were walking along were unrecognizable, but we couldn't believe it then. It seemed like a nightmare, surrealistic but so real, and it never ended. Aya, who was only 2 at that moment, woke up and the first thing she asked me was, "Mommy, is the war already over? Have the bad men stopped shooting?" I cried so hard as it was too difficult to comprehend that my toddler said that instead of the routine, "Mommy, I'm hungry." In my childhood, I read books about the Second World War and saw the black and white photos of children who were then called the children of the war. And now that term may apply to my child as well. We were talking and praying for the war to be over soon. We gave it maximum 14 days, recalling the 2008 Russo-Georgian War. And in rare moments, it seemed to us that everything is calming down, but then the sounds of explosions turned us back to reality. Also, we were talking about an opportunity to leave for Western Ukraine if things aggravate, but at the time, no one was seriously thinking about that. God provided us with food even though the shelves of local shops and stores were empty. We managed to buy lots of fresh fish from a guy who brought it in his truck from the southern regions of Ukraine, but he didn't manage to take it to Kharkiv supermarkets before the 24th of February. We also bought fresh milk and eggs from people in the village, several packs of flour to bake bread, and fresh cucumbers from the local greenhouse. On February 27th, Roman turned 33. A family of our close friends with 4 kids who lived in that village came to celebrate with us. Pastor's wife made an extremely delicious cake with frozen raspberries on top. I baked a huge fish with spices in the oven, and Roman had a big fish barbecued with the sounds of frequent explosions and aircraft in the background. But that day was so unexplainably good. My husband still says that it was the best birthday in his life, and he would have relived the day once again, even though his 34 met him here in the safe, sunny, and beautiful United States.
And I will explain why. The best birthday was because we were with our best friends, praying and being thankful to God. And it was thanks to God that we had no fear, but there was complete peace in our souls and trust in God.
We lived like that for a week, and then receiving calls from other brothers and sisters from the church who will live in the city. All of us eventually made up our minds to do the same. We couldn't come back to our house because of the aircraft and the rockets and the blocked beltway. On the morning of March 3rd, we were to leave for Western Ukraine. Everyone was worried about me and the baby and feared that I would deliver without proper environment and assistance. Mia was kicking all the time, even at night, and I actually cannot remember her to be calm at all. There were 4 families driving away in 4 cars. Us together with my mom, pastor and his wife, another pastor with his wife and 6 kids, and a family of Armenian origin we knew very well, a mother and 4 kids. On our long way to the west, which took us 4 days because of the traffic jams and people fleeing from the east, we stopped at churches and houses of brothers and sisters in Christ who fed us, comforted us, prayed with us and for us, and tried to help us in any possible way. When we finally made it to the church in Chernivtsi, the city near the border with Romania, we stayed in a shelter organized by the local church for a week. Family with 6 kids left for Germany, others stayed. On March 14th, we and pastor and his wife crossed the border and went to Romania, then to Bulgaria where their adult children lived. The Armenian family stayed in Ukraine for 3 or 4 more weeks and then went to Belgium. As for us, we went to Germany and stayed in the house of unknown people in a German village who had a strong wish to provide shelter for our family. It's there that I gave birth to our baby Mia on April 28th, 2022. After we got her documents and made her a citizen of Ukraine, we went to England under the Homes for Ukraine sponsorship scheme and lived and worked there, trying to start over with our lives and praying that God could provide us with our home and with peace. Every day we prayed for our family, our friends and our country, and for a place that we could call our home. When we got a call from the pastor with 6 kids from Germany, he told us that International Bible Church in Boca Raton, Florida, wanted to help a Christian family and they needed people who would serve God there. It was the answer from God, just like the one that we received after praying on the first day of the war. And this is how we have got here under the Uniting for Ukraine program. And we are extremely grateful to God and every person who has put thought, concern and effort into making our arrival and stay here in the US as comfortable as possible. The church, incredible volunteers, charity funds and others, you have no idea what huge things you do and what huge support you all are. We never take things for granted, as we know that everything in life comes with hard work, strong will, enormous effort, and most importantly, God's mercy. It's really hard and painful to realize that we are homeless and we don't own anything. However, here we were provided with more things that we could ever think of, and we will be forever grateful for that. Thank you for the furniture, kitchen appliances, plates, cups, TV, glasses, carpets, paintings, for every single thing you've given to us to make us feel at home. There are no words in this world that could express our gratefulness to you. Thank you, and may God bless you all.